What is up, my good people of the internet? Dan Tortora here, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning as we are very much within the football world, and that's what we're going to talk about today. College football week 3 has concluded. NFL week 2 is still going on tonight with the fight over the nest between the Falcons and the Eagles. So got some great stuff coming up here for you. I appreciate your patience this morning. What I've learned from Facebook is you cannot be honest about Facebook in front of Facebook or in front of any of your devices. So hopefully it's working for you on your end, folks, because we had to go through troubleshooting that we haven't had to do in probably years, over a year. So hopefully all is well. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning this morning inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Of course, it's a Monday and Murph is with us, and so he'll be with us for hour number 1, and we'll be heading off to golf with his pops in hour number 2, so we will have Steve Addazio in hour number 2 with us. So very excited to have Steve here, and very excited for Murph and his dad to get out there and have some fun on the links. I know how important that is to me and my dad, and I thought there was a chance we were never going to be able to do it again because of my dad's back and some things that had been going on, but we've had the opportunity. So Murph is going to grace us with his presence for the first hour, and then we will have Steve Addazio. Murph, of course, talking with us today about college football, the NFL, and a little bit of sports card show and tell. And then Steve Addazio, longtime college football coach and college football current analyst, is going to be joining me to speak about the state of college football, taking a look around the country all the way up into these last 3 weeks and where we are right now, where we're currently sitting at, his thoughts on the landscape, which includes realignment and more with Steve Addazio. So very excited for that and excited to have Murph here with us in hour number 1. Murph, how we doing?
It's been a fun weekend. Had a wedding to go to on Saturday. Went to the Mets Phillies game on a bus yesterday. Result of that game wasn't so fun, but that's okay. Braves lost, so we didn't lose any ground to them, so that's important. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. I'm getting excited to go out and play with my dad. First time this year we're getting to go out and play with each other. Actually, no, that's not true. We played an outing in May. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
First time we're at playing and keeping our own scores. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
There you go. Well, excited to have you here for hour number 1. I want to jump right into college football, and I want to jump into something I posted last night. It was an official email that came from the Atlantic Coast Conference. They issued an institutional fine and public reprimand for comments said by Pittsburgh Panther head coach Pat Narduzzi. Now, I watched these comments in real time, and as soon as I saw him say it, I wasn't against him being honest. I wasn't against him giving his thoughts, but I knew as soon as it came out of his mouth that he was more than likely going to get fined because coaches can't talk about officials. This is what the ACC said. The Atlantic Coast Conference issued a public reprimand of Pitt's football coach Pat Narduzzi for violating the ACC sportsmanship policy following Pitt's win over West Virginia on September 14th. In addition, the league announced that an institutional fine has been issued to Pitt, which is $5,000, as a result of the violation. The funds from the imposed institutional fine will be placed into the Weaver James Corrigan Swafford postgraduate scholarship account. Narduzzi's postgame comments aired on ESPN regarding the officiating crew were in direct violation of the ACC sportsmanship policy that states, public criticism of officials or public comments evaluating the officiating of particular contests is not in the best interest of intercollegiate athletics. Individuals associated with the athletics program are prohibited, therefore, from commenting while acting in an official capacity on officiating other than directly to the conference office. End quote. The ACC considers this matter closed and will have no further comment. Thoughts, Murph, on the fact that even if a coach may be right, they can't say anything?
Rules are rules. Got to follow them. I mean, you can understand his position, but at the same time, it's he's going to end up getting fined. I mean, you said you watched the whole thing happen in real time, so it's one of those things where you're like, you know what, you're probably right, but you're going to have to wear this one because you're going to end up getting fined for it. Um, you know, it's a sensitive topic these days when it comes to talking about officials.
Yeah.
You do see it in the NFL. Obviously, it's not as frowned upon in the NFL, but it's still not exactly they don't look upon it very well. But in college football, there's rules against it. So, you got to follow the rules. I mean, obviously, you're going to break the rules at times and you're going to face the consequences, which is, what is happening now. But, I mean, do I agree with you that he was right? Probably. Uh, but at the same time, you got to know that there's consequences for your actions and,
Yeah.
Move on and be better because of it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, he had a lot of thoughts, and his exact quote. I'll tell you his exact quote because his exact quote I think you'll appreciate. So his exact quote that he said more than this, but this was the one that I posted Saturday as I was watching it in real time. So the quote by Pat Narduzzi, I want to make sure that I got it here. Well, that's Eli Holstein. Their quarterback is very good, by the way. He was an Alabama commit. He redshirted at Alabama last year, so he's got 4 years to lead Pitt if he chooses to. This is what he said. Quote, "We beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl, and we beat the officials, too, in one game." So, I mean, he said more
It
than
is a classic line, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Like, can we still have the quote when they do the ACC sizzle reel at the end of the season? Can we still have the quote? Is what I'm asking.
no, I mean, it was kind of a savage comment,
Yeah,
but like I said, like he's got to know in that situation that he's going to take some heat for that.
yeah,
Right? He's got to know that there's going to be consequences for what comes out of his mouth right there.
yeah,
So, I mean, if you've ever seen the video of Mark Cuban after I forget what sort of event that it was, but he dropped an F-bomb on a TV show, and they found out that he got fined $15,000 for it, and the reporter literally said it to him that he was getting fined. So Cuban, as the savage as he is, says, "If I do it again, do I drop another 15K because it was going to a good cause?"
yeah,
And she goes, "You want to make it 30?" And he goes, "Yeah, F it." you know. Um,
yeah,
but like in that situation, if you're Pat Narduzzi, you got to know you're gonna get in trouble for that, right? So did he know it was coming and probably was willing to accept it? Chances are probably he was fired up from winning the game,
yeah,
right? But it's a no thing in college sports. So I think the ACC made the right move in coming down and levying the punishment that they did. Doesn't sound like it's all that uncommon for them to do that in these situations. So, good on them. I'm sure Pitt is okay with it, considering they won the game under those circumstances.
yeah. I mean, listen, there's no love lost between those two teams, Pitt and West Virginia, and it was a fired up game. It was a big time comeback. Eli Holstein, for goodness sakes, when he kind of looked around the field and didn't see anything and then went to run forward and spun, he kind of looked surprised when he came around the spin that he was still up, and he looked around himself and was like, "Oh, I'm still good," and took off. I mean, this team did some heroic things, and Pitt is 3-0 to start the season. They struggled last season. It was arguably the worst. I mean, I think it was the worst record Pat Narduzzi had at Pitt this entire time, and he's done a good job. So, it's just one of those things. But getting Italian fired up, and you're probably going to hear something. I mean, I don't knock him for. And there's also, it also may be something that, yeah, it could be just in the moment, or it could be his message. It could be his message that he's had enough. and he could be telling the ACC, fix it or else. Like I make millions of dollars. I'll take another $5,000 fine. So, it's interesting because the thing is, when you send something to the office of the coordinator of officiating, and I've gotten to know the coordinators of officiating over the years at the ACC, different guys that have held that role, when you send it over, I mean, what can they do? They can't fix it. They can't right the ship. They can tell you they're sorry. So if he had lost that game, I can only imagine what would have come out of his mouth, because when he won the game, he still said something. So
that would have been rough.
Yeah, no. That might have been an F-bomb on television.
Yeah, probably. That would have been a bigger fine.
Yeah. So, but if we're going to fine for F-bombs, I think that we have to call up Will Smith because he made a couple. So
that was still one of the funny. I know obviously that whole situation was a little bit messed up, but that was so funny.
Yeah, that situation. I was like, he's on like broadcast television. Like, you can't do it there. So, and he did.
Live national TV at the Oscars.
Yep. And I don't know if he paid any fines, but I mean, I could tell you that
probably
I would probably not want to pay those if I was CBS. But speaking of paying a fine, which leads me to a bank account, which leads me to a buyout, which leads me to Florida. Here's the question.
Oh, God.
The Florida Gators are in a place right now that I don't think that they should be in. And the reason why I don't think they should be in this place is I feel like they should have never fired Dan Mullen. I did back him, not knowing him. I didn't
How
know
long have we talked about this?
Yeah.
We've been talking about that for 2 freaking years.
Yeah. I backed this guy for a while, and I was surprised that they were letting him go. I know that there was some struggles, but Dan Mullen got the Florida Gators the closest that they've ever been to the college football playoff. And I don't know if they were treating him like Icarus. He flew too close to the sun. I have no idea what the deal was, but his time was shortened at Florida, and they made a move for Billy Napier. And I remember just saying to myself, like, I don't agree with it. Like, just kind of shaking my head and walking away from the table type of thing. Here we are. The Gators are in this season with one victory. It's over Samford. If people don't know who Samford is, it is a veterinary clinic. And so I'm kidding. But they played Samford and Sons, and they beat them. And beyond that, it's been an ugly, ugly road for the Gators. They're still running a two-headed quarterback, and I have seen it in Syracuse. You see it in with different teams at different times. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter how talented they are. It doesn't work. It's not good for the team. It doesn't help the team almost ever, except for when you go back to Leak and Tebow, also with the Florida Gators. That did work, but that's like a place in space and time where, Tebow was utilized for a different skill set. But here's the thing. So Billy Napier's the head coach. The team is 1-2. They're in the SEC. I'm going to kind of unleash you, and then I'll respond.
I mean, you hit a couple of my points right on the head. I mean, Dan Mullen should have never been fired. We have both agreed on that we've talked about that ad nauseum since day one of me coming on the show every week. We've talked about how bad Billy Napier has been. Well, maybe not that in the beginning, but we talked about we didn't trust Billy Napier. We didn't like the hire, and we didn't like the fact that Dan Mullen was let go after one bad year. Yeah. One bad year. He got them to New Year's Six Bowls. He either coached, I think it was 3 or 4 years. I don't remember off the top of my head. But he brought them to a New Year's Six Bowl in the first 3 years.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 years. Year 1, year 2, year 3, New Year's Six. That's never been done in the history of Florida. Not even Urban Meyer did it. This program, since Napier was hired, has become a complete and total joke. Nobody wants to go to the University of Florida. Billy Napier has no idea how to recruit, has no idea how to coach in the SEC,
Yeah.
has no idea who to play at quarterback when the choice is obvious.
Yeah.
Graham Mertz, good player, but you shouldn't be the starter, dude. We got an incredibly talented true freshman quarterback behind you that played his tail off against Sanford. Now, I don't care that it's Sanford. He still threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do against anybody. I don't care who you're playing. He deserves to start. He deserves more playing time. Bottom line is, Billy Napier is causing all of these problems. The players hate him. The fans hate him. And I think the higher-ups at the school hate him. Now, there's one other piece to this that I want to get, and I want to make sure I get his name correct because I don't want to forget it. So, our athletic director, Scott Strickland, he was hired in 2016. I saw this stat the other day, and I got to see if I could find it because it was on Twitter. Come on, where is it? Okay, here it is. So since 2016, since the year he was hired, Gators head coaches in all sports hired by Scott Strickland are a combined 86 and 398 with 0 national championships. While head coaches hired under Jeremy Foley, who was their previous athletic director, are a combined 390 and 38 with 18 national championships.
Yeah.
I think this tells you more about our athletic director than our head coach. And as bad as the head coach is, our AD is not exactly much better either. So I want a clean house. I want them all gone.
Okay.
I want the AD. Because clearly, it's not just football. You heard that. You heard those numbers. Every coach he's hired has been terrible in every sport. And there's 20-something sports at the University of Florida, probably more. You got football. You got baseball's Kevin O'Sullivan. He's been there forever. But you got football. You got field hockey. You got lacrosse. You got soccer. You got all of these sports. I don't know which programs have had recently hired coaches, but I know the programs that have been top tier and always will be.
Yeah.
Baseball, Kevin O'Sullivan, been there forever. Softball, pretty sure their head coach has been there for 15 years. I'm pretty sure track and field, their coach has been there forever. You get the sports where their coaches have been there for a long time and were hired under the previous AD, and they're good. Florida's known for being good at. Florida was known for being good at football for a long time.
Yeah.
Now they're known as the laughingstock of the SEC, and to be glad you're not Vanderbilt. Literally. This team could legitimately go 1-11. And as much as I want to blame this on Billy Napier, that stat that I saw last night and just read, I think this problem is not all Billy Napier. I think most of it's Billy Napier, but it's not all him. Because clearly our AD is not a very good judge of coaches. So that being said, I said I wanted to keep that short. So I'm gonna be done with that. So Billy Napier needs to be fired ASAP. I would have fired him yesterday. They didn't. Apparently they were having a board of trustees meeting, and the board does not exactly like Billy Napier. I got the solution to the problem. I've gotten some flack for it, but I think it is the biggest solution to the problem, in part because of his experience coaching in the Power 5, in the SEC no less, and his experience having won a national championship. And that answer is Jimbo Fisher. He's a free agent right now. He's not coaching for anybody. So you don't even have to wait till the offseason to go get him. Go bring him in now. Bring him in now. This season, forget it. It's a lost season. You're not worried about it.
Yeah.
Bring him in now. Start to implement the new playbook. Don't worry about what happens on the field this season. And then you start fresh with him next year. This way he's kind of like the players already know him. They've started to implement the playbook and everything. So you bring him in. I mean, it's hard to implement a new playbook in the middle of the season, but when Billy Napier's not doing all that much, you know, I wouldn't say it's worth it. Now, Florida fans are clamoring for Lane Kiffin. And if I'm Lane Kiffin, why the hell would I go to Florida?
Yeah.
I'm coaching the number 5 ranked team in the country right now.
Yeah.
That legitimately could win the SEC. As good as Georgia and Alabama are, do not count Ole Miss out. Ole Miss is a very good program. Lane Kiffin is a very good coach. I love Lane Kiffin. Yeah. Believe me, if Lane Kiffin was offered the Florida job and he took it, I would be ecstatic. I do think he would be the best guy for the job, but it's not realistic.
No.
It's not like we're going to go get Nick Saban out of retirement, right? It's not like we're going to go get Jim Harbaugh back from the NFL. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Jimbo Fisher is a realistic option. He has coached in the state of Florida. He's won a national championship. He has coached in the SEC.
Yeah.
And done well in the SEC. I don't understand why I'm getting flack for that. I mean, you can agree with, if you agree with me, great. If not, it's okay. I'm sure you have other ideas as who could be the coach of the Gators, but I'm sick of going and hiring. Now, Dan Mullen was an exception. Dan Mullen has coached at Florida. He was part of that squad, that Urban Meyer staff that won the 2 national championships. That was different. I'd love for him to come back, but if I'm Dan Mullen, I don't want to go anywhere near this program right now. Yep. But Jimbo Fisher makes all the sense in the world. He is not coaching anywhere right now. I understand he's got a huge paycheck coming in from Texas A&M because they fired him after that big contract. I don't think he doesn't need to coach if he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
But if he wants to, I'm all for it. I mean, Dabo Swinney would be great too, but I don't think he's leaving Clemson anytime soon. I know Clemson fans might kind of want to change, but I don't think he's going anywhere near Florida.
No.
That's why I think Jimbo's the right guy. Because he can recruit, he can coach, runs a solid offense. It'll take a couple of years, right? I mean, obviously we knew Billy Napier would take a few years, but Billy Napier in those few years has just gotten worse and worse. The recruiting classes haven't exactly been good. The one good thing he did for this program was get us DJ Langway. And that was it.
Yeah.
So, and all his other good players that have gone to the NFL, Ricky Pearsall, thank God he's okay.
Yeah.
Right? He was a Dan Mullen recruit. All these guys were Dan Mullen recruits. Napier did nothing for this program. He's got to be fired ASAP. And so does our AD for that matter. But to me, the obvious choice to replace Billy Napier is Jimbo Fisher.
Well, I said Syracuse when they had a job vacancy before this season began, that somebody on my list was Jimbo Fisher.
You also had a really good list, and Fran Brown made all the sense in the world based on that list because Jimbo didn't fit the criteria that you had.
Yeah, and the thing is Jimbo, well, here's the thing with Jimbo. He would have cost too much because Syracuse has been trying to look for coaches in the dollar bin, but they expect those coaches to win championships, but they pay them as if they found them at the Walmart, buy a DVD, get a DVD free. And so as much as I thought Jimbo was worth the phone call if you wanted to compete in the ACC, they didn't make that call. This is before Fran Brown. And keep in mind, Fran Brown wasn't even on their list. Fran reached out to them. And my list that I had that some people thought was crazy, when I found out who actually interviewed for the job, maybe the craziest one that I had on there to some people was a part of the process. And Jimbo, the reason why Jimbo comes up in my mind, number one, I've spent a lot of time with him. And I interviewed him weekly for years when he was at Florida State. I talked to him in person for years, and I talked to him off camera. Got to spend a few minutes with him and kind of just see his personality. The hiring of Jimbo Fisher to the Gators reignites a rivalry game that has become somewhat lackluster.
It's gonna be lackluster this year because both teams think.
So
I saw somewhere this is the first time Florida and Florida State are both under 500 through 3 games since like the 50s.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
So here's my thing. Should they have ever fired Dan Mullen? No. And when you look back on it, and you look back on what he did while he was there, for those of you playing the home game, I'm more than happy to share with you that Dan Mullen, going off of what Murph said, went to 3 straight New Year's Six Bowls, won the Peach Bowl in his first season there, then won the Orange Bowl, then lost in the Cotton Bowl, and his records were 10-3, 11-2, 8-4 in those seasons. In the SEC, he was 5-3, 6-2, and 8-2 in his seasons there. Keep in mind the 8-4 season where you're like, how is he 8-4 and he's 8-2 in the conference? That was the COVID year in 2020. He was fired the following season where he went 5-6. He was let go. Now, the team overall went 6-7 the year that they let him go. Since then, Billy Napier's been 6-7, 5-7, and 1-2. Why did I bring that up? Because this is not the first time a coach was relieved of their duties and the record was shown as, okay, so you fired this guy for having this record, and the guy that came in had that record. So you go, okay, maybe they're trying to get the locker room, maybe they're trying to figure things out. Transfer portal is in effect now, NIL's in effect now, those weren't in effect before. So what does this look like? Maybe the cupboard was left somewhat bare. But then he goes 5-7. And then he goes 1-2. Billy Napier's record, he's only been to 1 bowl game, and they lost that bowl game, and it's not a New Year's Six. So, first season for Dan Mullen, New Year's Six Bowl. First season for Billy Napier, a loss in the Las Vegas Bowl. Second season for Dan Mullen, a New Year's Six Bowl. Second season for Billy Napier, not bowl eligible. His overall record as the head coach of the Gators, speaking of Billy Napier, is 12 wins to 16 losses. Now, Billy Napier, to me, is, I'm never going to wish bad on anybody, and I'm never going to wish upon anyone to get fired. I'm going to state what's going on, and I'm going to state what the SEC typically does. You get 3 seasons in the SEC. Typically, you get 3 seasons. Jimbo Fisher got a little bit more. He beat Alabama. But you don't get a lot of time. Chad Morris, who got SMU to look good for the first time since they gave themselves the death penalty in 1985, and then he went to Arkansas. They gave him about 3 years. Charlie Strong, when he left Louisville and went to Texas, and they're in the Big 12, same thing. Being in the South, I was like, they're probably going to give you 3 years. They gave him 3 years. Now they're in the SEC. And Texas belongs in the SEC because they give their coaches the same amount of time that the SEC does. The reality is...
Didn't they just leap Georgia for number 1, too?
Yeah, they did. And they should, because Georgia played a baseball game. So when you look at... And Texas has looked really good on the road, at home.
Yeah,
they deserve to be there. Arch Manning, that 67-yard run I saw in real time was insane.
Quinn Ewers got hurt, right?
He did, yeah.
That's why Arch played as much as he did?
Yeah, Ewers went out of the game in the first half. And so, looking at Billy Napier's time, the numbers show that if the SEC is the SEC is the SEC, that he's gone. Dan Mullen shouldn't have been fired, and I will stick by that because what has proven me wrong to this point of going to New Year's Six Bowls, being successful, and finding a way to win and putting themselves in a position to get close to the college football playoff only under Dan Mullen, no other coach. Remember, folks, Will Muschamp, he struggled. Jim McElwain very much struggled. He was given a lot of time. And Dan Mullen was a sign of positive for the future. Dan didn't make sense in Syracuse. I said that. I had social media backlash from a bunch of strange weirdos that decided to just tell me they know my city better than I do. And I'm sorry, but did Dan Mullen even... These people were like, oh, we should have hired Dan Mullen, should have hired Dan Mullen this, Dan Mullen that. He didn't even interview for the job. So once again, folks, you can pretend to be the media, you can say that you're the media, but those of us that are actually in it, let us do our job. And maybe trust us when we tell you, why would I lie to you? What benefit do I have lying to you about something? Dan Mullen never made sense at Syracuse, and it turns out he wasn't even on the board. So I think he should have stayed in Florida. The other part of this, to get to it, Jimbo Fisher. Listen, I'm a proponent of Jimbo Fisher. I might as well be his agent because I've lobbied for him with different jobs and different opportunities. I think Jimbo Fisher is a good coach. He's proven that he can recruit. He's proven that he could be the number one team in the state of Florida. He has made these games interesting in Florida State. I went to the Florida State matchup in Tallahassee when Jimbo Fisher was the head coach for the Seminoles and experienced what that looks like with like 90,000 people there. So,
yeah,
you know, I can honestly tell you that he brings recruiting, he brings winning, he brings a coach who is in a very, very tiny group, and that is a coach that has gone head to head with Nick Saban and defeated him. So I look to the win over Nick Saban in Alabama. I look to his recruiting. I look to learning under Bobby Bowden and all the success that Bobby had and all the years that Jimbo worked under him, because I think people forget about those years and what he did leadership-wise. I look at how teams have developed under him. So he has proven that he is a strong coach. He is a good coach. And if he goes on the other side of this, that's a hey, how you doing to Florida State and their front office. But I will tell you this. I do agree with you that when you have consistent issues and bad decisions across multiple programs, you do have to look at the leadership. And in the example that you brought up very eloquently, Murph, I would say that I could liken the Florida Gators, and people don't want to hear this, but I'm going to tell you this, and it goes off your point. I liken them to the Carolina Panthers. When you keep changing your head coach and you keep changing your quarterback, you're admitting to me that you have a front office problem. And they did. And they fired their GM and they got a new one. And they still have problems. So the Florida Gators have to really look at the decisions that are being made and look at the giant scope, not just football. And if you did want to look simply at football, look at the fact of letting Dan Mullen go and then bringing Billy Napier in. Look at how much time you gave to Jim McElwain and all those things that go along with it. I think Jimbo Fisher is a good push for this, and I think he's a good push for this because of his ability to recruit and because of his knowledge of the state of Florida, because of his connections in the state of Florida, and because he's won in the SEC, because he's beaten Alabama. And listen, Jimbo Fisher, do you really think he's going to sit there and put up with a 5-7 team and a 6-7 team? So I do want to make note of this one guy on Twitter or on X that said this, Bo Morgan. I have no idea who this person is. I just thought you'd like it. It says, Billy Napier is ruining my enjoyment of Mike Norvell's incompetence at Florida State.
But Mike Norvell's not incompetent. Mike Norvell doesn't have as good a team this year.
But what he's saying is,
hey, Mike, if you wanna switch schools and come over to the other school in Florida, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike Norvell, by the way, folks, do not fire him. Do not let him go.
No.
Last year,
this is not his fault.
No. I mean, this is, honestly, like I said before, I blame this partially on the college football playoff.
Much talent to the NFL last year.
Well, he lost it to the transfer portal. He lost Jordan Travis. I blame partially the College Football Playoff Committee because their decision to not put Florida State in could have affected guys deciding to go to the NFL, guys deciding to leave and go into the transfer portal. So, I mean, you have to remember this. Why didn't I pick Florida State? The majority of the ACC media, I called it the hangover. I called it the Florida State hangover. The majority of the ACC media picked Florida State to win with a different quarterback, with guys that had transferred out, with guys that are in the NFL like Jerry Jones and Jared Verse. They made a decision to pick Florida State, and I thought it was resting on the laurels of last year. We're going to pick Florida State because they were good last year, and I couldn't do that. And what did I tell you was my deciding vote? I didn't believe that DJ Uiagalelei could step in, new to the team, and bring this team a championship in his first year there. And at this point, what are they asking for at Florida State? They're asking for them to switch quarterbacks. And I'm telling you this right now. If DJ's the quarterback in week 4, again, I'm not wishing bad on anybody. I'm just trying to talk about something constructively because I care about all these guys and I get to know these guys, and it breaks my heart when I have to go through this stuff and see guys get cut and moved and whatever. If DJ doesn't work in week 4, I don't care that he has 2 true freshmen. I don't care that he has a redshirt freshman. If he wants to keep his fan base and he wants to keep focus on the season, Mike Norvell has to, and I'm not saying all the fans are right, because some people are crazy. He needs to salvage this year. He has to change quarterbacks. And I can give DJ maybe one more week, but I'm telling you this right now. I didn't believe it was going to work. It hasn't worked. And if I am Mike Norvell, you cannot be worse than 0% wins. I would go to another quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, what was the kid that started when Travis got hurt? What was his name?
So there was
that's the redshirt freshman, right?
Yeah, there was 3 guys. So there was 3 guys on the team last year, and the one guy that came back onto the team that is a redshirt freshman that played sparingly in the games is Brock Glenn. And then they also
it's not the same guy.
They got a couple.
I was thinking of the kid that took over for Travis last year. So he's not there anymore.
No.
Okay.
No, there was 2 guys, and the name is escaping me as well. But there was somebody. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find it here. But yeah, there was a second string situation. Oh, it was I
thought his name was like Tate something.
Oh no, he wasn't still there. I was thinking of one guy, but I don't know. Mackenzie Milton, I think, was finished up. So
yeah, he was done already. I think
he was already done. So Florida State, by the way, Florida State of 17.
My boss would know.
Yeah,
Sean, if you're watching, text me right now who the guy that took over for Jordan Travis was.
17.
He would know. He's a diehard Florida State Seminole fan.
Yeah, 17 schools in the ACC. 17 schools. Who would have thought that Florida State picked to win the ACC by the majority of the media, not by your boy, but Florida State is last in the ACC right now. They are in last place in the ACC.
Sad.
So
I feel bad for Mike Norvell. I really do.
That's behind SMU. That is behind Cal, and that's behind Stanford, who are all new to the conference. Giving a note here, and by the way, some haven't even played their games yet. In the fact of the situation with Stanford, Stanford's playing their first ACC game this Friday night up against Syracuse. So Brock Glenn played in the Florida State Louisville matchup here. So it wasn't that game. So Brock Glenn played in the ACC championship. I guess I got to go one game back here and look at the game against Florida. And
I thought Jordan Travis got hurt the game before.
Yeah, he got hurt the game before, but I thought 2 guys came in from. It was Tate Rodmaker.
I was going to say I thought it was somebody. I thought the name was Tate. Yeah, I just couldn't remember the last name.
Yeah, Tate
but yeah,
came
like
in, and he's not there anymore.
Yeah, I feel real bad for Mike and that Florida State program right now. They were screwed something else last year by the playoff committee. And you're right, I think it's some sort of a hangover with them. And you have to think something's got to be wrong with their mentality right now.
Yeah.
that they may still be like hung up on last year and they're, basically forgetting about what's right in front of them. Right. And, I love Mike Norvell. I think he's been great for Florida State. You know, having the, interactions that you have had with him, we've kind of, indirectly connected with him. I know at least after the Jets took Jordan Travis in the draft last year, you kind of indirectly brought me up to him and was like, "Yeah, I'm real excited that we got him and everything." And so having that interaction with him, I'll always have a soft spot for Mike Norvell. But
Yeah.
that is not a good situation. What's going on down there in Tallahassee?
No.
So I mean, we're not much better. Like I said, I don't know what the heck they're gonna do as far as the quarterback position goes this year at Florida State, and at least for us too. I mean, you got to get DJ on the field. I mean, Graham Mertz is good, but he's a statue. Like the dude's got no mobility. That does not work in college football these days.
Yeah.
So, for me, I said Jimbo Fisher. I think he makes all the sense in the world. People don't like it, but he knows how to win. I don't care that he got fired by Texas A&M. Dude knows how to win football games.
Well, he shouldn't have been fired by Texas A&M either.
You're right. You're right. He shouldn't have been. Right? He should have been fired the same way Dan Mullen should have been fired. There's guys at different programs that have been fired that shouldn't have been. Right? I mean, when I was up there, I guess it was in December. It was either when we were up there or when you were down here, shortly before Syracuse hired Fran Brown.
Yeah.
We had talked just off camera, just about, what your qualifications were. And you said it on the show too before. And it was basically like a guy from the North that understands the area, has had some success with schools in the North. I don't remember what all your qualifications were. You'd be able to refresh the audience. But, based on those qualities, Fran Brown was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. I mean, they're 2-0. They're about to play Stanford. I would think they're going to be 3-0 after that game. I like the direction they're going in. Having Kyle McCord at quarterback has been a nice little change. Bringing a guy in from Ohio State that was good. He may not have been the best quarterback Ohio State's ever had, but he's, bringing a guy in from a program like that. He's a good player. That was a big get for them.
Yeah.
But I like the direction that they're going. And it's those same kind of qualifications that I like that would be the reason why I'd want Jimbo Fisher. Now, Jimbo Fisher has the unique distinction of having been one of the few coaches to beat Nick Saban. One of the few active coaches to have won a national championship. Granted, he did it with crab legs, but, yeah. But I'll never let Jameis Winston live that down, man. That was so funny.
I told you what I did. I went to the Publix that I was in Tallahassee for Florida State, and I went to the Publix that he had allegedly gotten crab legs from the guy that said it was okay or whatever it was, and I bought Coke Zero, and I stood in the parking lot and I took a picture, and I said, Jameis Winston and I both walked into this Publix. One of us paid for our stuff. Do you know which one it was?
Yeah. I mean, I know that it was never really, I don't think it was ever really proven whether or not it was, legitimately that like he stole them or not, but
yeah.
He'll never live that down in my eyes. But yeah, like Jimbo knows how to win. He's won in the state of Florida. He understands the Florida State rivalry. Yeah. He's coached in the SEC. He's won in the SEC. Realistically, conceivably should have been in the playoff in 2020.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for some other crazy things that happened, but, and then Cincinnati got in that year, and they deserved it 100%. No, wait, was that the year? No, that was not the year Cincinnati got in. That was the year Notre Dame got in. Yeah, they should have been in. They should have been in the playoff over Notre Dame. We've talked about that before. I think we talked about that last week a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't only have them in. I had them in at 3.
Yeah, they should have been.
They only had one loss, and
it was to Alabama.
Yeah, and if you looked at the quality of that season for Texas A&M, and again, Jimbo Fisher
had a lot of good wins that year.
So how about this? Here's another reason to bring Jimbo Fisher into the Florida State rivalry. Mike Norvell has a gripe that's totally reasonable, based in factual reality, that he should have been in the college football playoff with Florida State, and Jimbo Fisher has a gripe that's living in factual reality that Texas A&M should have been in it. So put those two coaches against each other in a rivalry game of the two coaches that got spurned that publicly addressed it.
Yeah. I don't understand why people think Jimbo Fisher's not the right coach at Florida.
Because
I don't.
It's because they can't. It's because they can't picture that. They can't picture like it's like dancing with the devil because he was on the other side. That's
right?
That's probably what people are. That's the energy. But the reality of the fact is, listen, if a coach is a good coach, which he's a good coach, and a coach can successfully recruit in Florida and can rise to the top of Florida above all the other schools there, above all the other conference foes and in-conference, out-of-conference foes, Jimbo Fisher has proven that he can stand at the top of the mountain from the state of Florida. So why he wouldn't be considered would be crazy. I do want to give this really quick. This is Jimbo Fisher over the years. Now keep in mind, he was an assistant under Bobby Bowden before this. 2010, and Bobby Bowden had a lot of success with Jimbo Fisher on staff. In 2010, when he took over as head coach, 10-4, went to a New Year's Six bowl and won it. 2011, 9-4, went to a bowl game and won it. 2012, 12-2, went to the Orange Bowl, which is a New Year's Six bowl, and won it. 2013, 14-0, won the last BCS national championship before there was the change to the college football playoff, and he did that with famous Jameis Winston. 2014, 13-1, went to a New Year's Six bowl, lost. 2015, 10-3, went to a New Year's Six bowl and lost. 2016, 10-3, went to a New Year's Six bowl and won. 2017, 5-6, he leaves. Texas A&M, 9-4, goes to the Gator Bowl and wins. 2019, 8-5, goes to a bowl game and wins. 2020, 9-1, goes to a New Year's Six bowl and wins. Then he was 8-4, then he was 5-7, then he was 6-4 before they let him go. So his overall record at Florida State, 83 wins to 23 losses in 106 games. At Texas A&M in the SEC, 3-0 in bowl games, including a New Year's Six bowl, 45-25 in 70 games. I know the people might clamor and be weird about the fact that he was 5-7 and 6-4, but he was 20 games over 500, America. That should be good enough for the Gators, who right now are 1-2. Would you want a 45-25 coach in Gainesville? I think so.
Because we'll be playing in bowl games every year, right? Am I saying they're going to compete for a national championship anytime soon? Probably not, right? But if there is one coach that consistently knows how to build up a program and win at the highest level that's available to you, and I want to make sure I leave that caveat, because Kirby Smart ain't coming, Nick Saban ain't coming, Dabo Swinney ain't coming. These guys ain't coming. Yeah. They're staying put, right? Jimbo Fisher is that guy. Yeah. He just is. And if they hire Jimbo Fisher, I'm going to be ecstatic. I would love Jimbo Fisher in Gainesville. Yeah. But, well, it remains to be seen. Billy Napier is still the coach as of right now. If they keep losing, he's not making it through the season. I saw something where they should say, hey, bring Spurrier back for the rest of the year and then hire someone else after the year. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Spurrier would be better than Billy Napier.
Here you go. Have your front office guy that you've been sitting here talking about, have your athletics director coach the team the rest of the year.
Yes.
And if
let him get fired.
And if he can't get them to the bowl game, then you let them both go.
Yes. That'd be great.
That's called Survivor, the real game. So let's get into really, really quick, because we just have like a minute here. But the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, the statistic that came up going into week 2 is that Aaron Rodgers has never started off a season ever in his career 0-2. He doesn't do it here. I picked the Jets to defeat Tennessee on the road in Tennessee. They did win that game. So the New York Jets are 1-1 under Aaron Rodgers. We saw a lot of good things. Braylon Allen as well as Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, a lot of guys getting involved. And there was some stuff left on the table, too, because Aaron did try to air out to, I think it was one of his tight ends that he went to in the end zone that he had missed a little bit too high. So Aaron Rodgers, at the end of the game, here he is. He's never been 0-2. He's not 0-2 now. Thoughts on the Jets and their first Aaron Rodgers win?
Well, if you ask Aaron Rodgers, it's technically his second win. Because he does get credit for the one last year. However, this team continues to come out flat the first 2 weeks of the year. You just came out, Saleh just does not have them ready to play. I don't know what it is. I mean, I like Saleh. I think he's a likable guy. I think the players really like him. But it seems like they just come out flat. And this is the same going back to last year and the year before. They just don't seem like they're coming out ready to play. Now, they had to come back in this game. They were down. I don't think they win this game without Aaron Rodgers. I will tell you that. Because even though Aaron Rodgers' stats weren't all that impressive, what he was able to do at the line of scrimmage, I saw 2 different plays where he made a change at the line based on what the defense was showing him, and they made big plays. The Braylon Allen touchdown, the run, he called out the safety being the Mike, changed the play, made it a run to the right to Braylon Allen, and he ran it in 20-something yards for a touchdown. He is so intelligent, and he's so intelligent when it comes to figuring out what the defense gives him and taking advantage of what the defense gives him. And that's how they're able to win games. That's why Aaron Rodgers has been so good for so long. He doesn't have to wow you with his arm. And he still made some good throws. He made a nice throw to Garrett Wilson. He made a nice throw to Breece Hall in the end zone for a touchdown. So he's still going to give you those plays. But he doesn't need to go out and throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns every week to win games. He recognizes a play. You got 2 very good running backs. I didn't think that I didn't necessarily think Braylon Allen was going to play as much as he is right now. I would have figured it'd be all Breece Hall. But Braylon Allen's looked good those first 2 weeks. That's going to be a 2-headed monster that we got there.
Yeah.
Between Breece and Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen also the youngest player in, let's see, what was it? The youngest player.
He's the youngest player playing right now.
Well, yes. But what was it? The youngest player ever to score a rushing and receiving touchdown in the same game.
Is he 22?
So that was
I think he's
awfully
22
impressive.
or something like that.
20.
20. Oh, yeah,
20.
That's right.
Yeah. Because he was a true junior when he came out.
Crazy.
But yeah, he's been impressive. Mike Williams starting to get involved. Lazard looks better now that he's got his buddy Aaron Rodgers back.
Yeah.
I like the direction of this team. The defense is still concerning me, but that is not like the Jets at all. Quentin Williams has basically been non-existent. You just lost Jermaine Johnson for the year with an Achilles. So Will McDonald has had to step up, and Will McDonald had a solid game yesterday.
Yeah.
But Quinnen's got to get to the QB. Quincy's got to do a better job in coverage. Sauce is doing his thing. DJ Reed's been decent. Having Chuck Clark back in the secondary has been good too. The line's got to move. We got to get to the quarterback more often. We definitely miss Bryce Huff. I will tell you that much. And Joe Douglas, please figure this thing out with Hassan Reddick. At this point, now that you just lost Jermaine Johnson, so you lost another edge rusher, go figure it out with Hassan Reddick. At this point, I don't care how much you have to give him. Just go give him the money and tell him, get in the building, let's go. We need you back.
It's so dramatic.
I know. Before I go, I want to leave you with one thing.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for any of you guys that had to play against Alvin Kamara in fantasy. Oh, wait a minute. That was me. I had the second, and that's obviously the week's not over yet. I had the second most points in my my fantasy league.
Touchdowns.
I'm looking. Yeah. I had the second most points in my fantasy league. Somebody still got someone to play, but by 24 points.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to lose. So I'm going to start up the season 0-2 simply because I had to go up against Alvin Kamara. So thank you, Saints. And thank you, Cowboys, for allowing him to do that.
Well, and I said, 2 teams coming off of blowing teams out. What's going to happen? Well, New Orleans went and blew out Dallas. By the way,
are they actually good?
Well, yeah,
I'm still trying to figure that out.
I like Derek Carr. I have liked Derek Carr. I don't know why the Raiders let go of Derek Carr. I have been clear about my thoughts on Derek Carr over time. So I didn't know if it was going to work out in New Orleans because they've utilized so many different guys. But let's keep in mind something here, folks. The Dallas Cowboys didn't just lose 44-19 to the New Orleans Saints yesterday. The Dallas Cowboys at home in Arlington at their AT&T Stadium, the last time they were there, they allowed 48 points to the Green Bay Packers and got bounced out of the playoffs. Remember, folks, the Dallas Cowboys have now given up 92 points in their last 2 games at home.
They're frauds.
It's crazy. And I do want to show these really quick because they're Topps products and they're cool. So I do.
You open Topps Composite, right?
Yeah, the Topps Composite. I got not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 C.J. Stroud rookie
Let me ask
cards.
you something because I didn't get to see the break yet.
Yeah.
Did you pull any Anthony Richardsons out of there?
No.
Because I opened a box of Composite too, and I only got Strouds.
So
I got 3 Strouds and a Levis, and no Richardson.
Yeah,
So you got 4. You got 4 Strouds.
I got 4 Strouds and I got Levis in both boxes. So the cool thing about these is that there's not a lot of composite that's necessarily out there, and there wasn't a ton that came in here to GG Cards and Breaks. They were able to get their hands on a few, and I opened 2 of those boxes. So these may be going at trade night. And then
Did you hit an auto in yours?
I did. I was just about to show this. So this might be coming with me to Philly. Josh Gideon literally said to me, it's not, he's like, you could get a Mike Quick. And look at who I got.
No way.
Mike Quick, Philadelphia Eagle. It is a green wave refractor autograph numbered to 325 in the world. Mike Quick. So, but I got a ton of stuff from them, and I got a Will Levis Topps Midnight insert running rookie card. So I got 3 rookies of Will Levis, and then I got 4 of CJ Stroud. But these are pretty looking cards. And keep in mind that Stroud not having the Texans logo, he's one of the players where it doesn't matter because all of his autos are non-Texans logo. So
Correct.
that's one that doesn't hurt.
He's got RPAs in this series.
Right, so that doesn't hurt you. And my Beatty collection is looking very sexy too if he ever makes it back up, which
I love the color match one.
Yeah, this one.
That one's so nice.
So this was
But
to replace
realistically, if
my
Alonso doesn't come back, Beatty's probably going to be our third baseman because Vientos will go to first.
Well, what I and what I love about these is so this was to replace my turquoise one that was graded that I sold.
I like that one better.
And yeah,
I do
that's the color
because it's the
match
true blue,
one.
right?
Yeah, this is. Let me see here. So yeah,
It's not the blue wave, right? It's the true blue.
Yeah, this is the true blue. So, and yeah, there's no wave on this one because my other one was the turquoise wave. This is an on card.
That one's nice.
And this is my favorite one. This is an on card with the silver.
Yeah, I had one of those ones. It's not that one. I had I forget what color it was.
Yeah. So
you mentioned the Topps
collection is
Composite.
sexy. What'd you say?
You mentioned the Topps Composite. I just want to show you one thing because you'll get a kick out of the name.
Yeah.
So I hit an auto in my box too. I opened a mega box about a week and a half ago. You'll get a kick out of the name.
Please tell me you got Mike Slow or something like that.
No.
All right.
He is an all-time draft bust. When I saw the name, I'm like, oh, this is great. Check this one out. Tony Mandarich.
Tony Mandarich. Nice.
Believe he was picked 2nd overall by the Packers in like the 80s and was touted as being like one of the best offensive linemen in NFL history, and then he was awful.
Yeah.
I just thought that one was funny. I thought you might enjoy that one.
Yeah, this is one of my Levises. But I do have the Midnight, and it's not in the studio right now. Got some good stuff, though, coming. My Bo Nix should be delivered to me today. Number 007, which is pretty cool, out of 100. And it is his auto. So excited to get that. I also won my J.J. McCarthy one with the smiley face that he signed with it because he doesn't sign them all with a smiley face. So got some cool stuff coming in. And what did I just win last night? There's one I won last night.
Check your eBay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this right now, really, really quick. There's one I'm trying to remember because there's one I'm going for, and I think I made an offer for it. I don't think I got anything back. So let's see. I got the last thing I got. Oh, yeah. I got a Tetaroa McMillan auto that's numbered. So the arguable best receiver in the country in college football with the Arizona Wildcats, Tetaroa McMillan. I got his. And by the way, I sold right after that Arizona game, baby. Thanks to fantasy. I sold one of my Gem Mint 10 PSA 10s of Marvin Harrison, and then I went in and made sure I priced right the other one. But yeah, so that one's sold and ready to be shipped today.
There you go.
So for Murph and for your dad, go out and have fun. Enjoy golfing with Pops, and I will see you next week on the same channel, same time, same place. DT and
Yes,
Murphy
sir.
starting off your week. Thank you, sir, and congratulations to AA Ron and your New York Jets.
Appreciate it, my friend. I'll talk to you next week, all right?
Man, take care. See you. That coming from Murph here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to take a quick step aside for a fast break, and then we're going to get ready for Steve Addazio, who will join us here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and I am honored and privileged to have the opportunity worldwide on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com to have you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and to welcome somebody that I count as a friend above everything else, and that is none other than the coach, Steve Addazio, here with us. And he is obviously working in the world of analysis in college football this season. He has been a longtime leader of men on and off the field, and one of the people that, like I said, I feel very honored to count as a friend, and someone who is a great mind and believes in what I think are the truest forms of collegiate athletics. So with that being said, let's bring him in. Steve, how are you?
Dan, great to be with you. Doing great, thanks. A beautiful day out here in Cape Cod.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I would like to switch places. I love my studio, but I like what it looks like out there.
Yeah, it's a picture perfect day, and gonna get about it today and get outside and enjoy it. Because as we know, in the Northeast, that can change in a few months in a hurry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you look at it, like you talked about, how things can change in a hurry, I want to go to a lot of different places in the college football world. One of the places I want to go is a place where you've been, and you know what it's like to be at the top of the mountain while being there. The Florida Gators, currently with Billy Napier and the program, they are 1-2. Their only victory is over Samford, and obviously it is the SEC. People are clamoring for victories and for answers. I'd love to get your thoughts on Dan Mullen, who went head coach to analyst as well, and you know, breaking down the game and whatnot, because Dan seemed to be doing something there. They went to 3 straight New Year's Six bowls, but he was let go. Billy was brought in, and now fans are kind of scratching their heads a little bit as the Florida Gators seem out of it just a few weeks in.
Yeah, I mean, I was down there a week ago. I broadcast the Florida Samford game. It's really the first time I'd been back since I was there, and saw how just fantastic the campus is, the new football facility, which I felt like has really put Florida as probably one of the top 5 jobs in the country. The facilities are just second to none. But you know, as everybody knows, Florida is in that conference at the University of Florida with a rich tradition. There's a lot of pressure to win. And, you know, right now they're not. And no one knows that better than Billy Napier. He's well aware of that. And they have a young quarterback that's an exciting guy. They have an older guy that's played a lot of good football. But for, you know, whatever reasons right now, they're not clicking. And there's not a lot of patience. And so there's a lot of pressure. And the management of that right now is going to be critical for Billy.
Yeah, and you've been inside of the SEC recently in connection with Texas A&M. We know how unforgiving college football can be, and we know how quickly it can forget what's going on as far as success goes. We saw Jimbo Fisher have success at Texas A&M. We saw him beat Alabama, and then we saw the unceremonious departing of him from the Aggies. So being inside of the SEC and being on multiple programs within that conference, it seems like the window is maybe at best 3 years of if someone's going to keep you or not. What is your take from being inside of what I consider the largest pressure cooker of college football?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's all trickle down, right? You know, as the pro goes, so does college football go. And the highest level of college football right now is the SEC. And so as the money gets greater, the patience gets smaller. Yeah. And, you know, we saw a lot of shuffling in the NFL, you know, get some guys getting even as little as a year. But 2 years is not uncommon, and certainly 3 is a decent run in the NFL. So that's trickled down to college now. I mean, college, there's so much money involved on all fronts, whether it be what they're paying people to what they're paying players to everything, that they want results, and they want results now. Yeah. And, you know, and they start, I think, you know, just turning things over really quick. And, you know, there's some danger to that. And, you know, I think back, I go back to, I remember when I first got to Syracuse, and they were talking about how, you know, Coach Beamer was on the hot seat at Virginia Tech, and they were going to give him one more year. And of course, the rest is history. He went on and built that program into such a great place. But like in today's world, he wouldn't have gotten that year. In fact, he probably wouldn't have got close to that. And so, this works both ways, and you got to be careful. I mean, and I think, not to babble on you here, but I think what's interesting in college football today is this: the ability for the administration to be able to know enough to know, is this program really on the right track and just not quite there yet? Or is this really not going the right way because it's not being run the right way? And, in the old days, when Jake Crowham was the AD, for example, at Syracuse, he was a football guy. He knew. And I think, less and less you're seeing that out there right now. So the evaluation process, sometimes can be skewed and put in the hands of overzealous alumni fan bases that, have a lot of money and they just want to just start turning things. And that can be dangerous. And in other times, it's probably justified.
Yeah, and being a head coach, I mean, you've lived in that world, right, of patience versus a lack thereof. How have you experienced that? Because you had a bunch of years at Boston College, but I would imagine that maybe the way it felt first coming into Boston College and the tail end was not the same, because college football has gotten to this win all the time. You're going to a bowl game. Okay, go to a better bowl game. Okay, you're going to go to a better bowl game. Make sure it's a New Year's Six. Now you got to be in the college football playoff. When you first went into BC to when you left BC, could you feel that? Could you get a sense of, because you brought up the Beamer example, could you get a sense of, okay, what we were doing here and what we were building here was enough, and then all of a sudden it shifted to, it's got to be so much more? Did you feel that?
I think what you felt was, as the money was getting greater and the pressure of the facilities, what winning means for the university. Yeah, it started to, it starts to ratchet up, and certain places more than others. Again, probably has a lot to do with the administration. Yeah. And then, of course, in college football, if you have an administration change, an AD change, that can be tough on a football coach. Hopefully, when that happens, you're having an uptick here. So it's listen, we are as head football coaches, you're an at-will employee, and they certainly have a contract. They have a right to do whatever they want to do, and you're protected. They're protected. Sometimes when all this turnover, what I feel most concerned about are the assistant coaches, and everybody else in that building gets affected by these changes. I mean, it's really it's a sad thing, and it's a hard thing, and we all as coaches sign up for this business, but it's getting more and more volatile, and I would think that it's going to continue to go down that path. It's not going the other way.
Yeah. Here with Steve Addazio this morning, longtime college football coach and current college football analyst. Let's get into that job that you've taken for this season. Being an analyst, traveling around the country, speaking on these games, from that viewpoint, how are you enjoying it? How are you seeing the game? What is it doing to challenge the Steve that I know, that you're now analyzing these games for ESPN?
It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. It keeps me around football. I love football. I love college football. I love football, period. And it's been a part of my life, and major part. And so to be able to get out there and meet with coaches on Friday and Thursday, and go watch a practice, and then go call the game, and keeps you attached to the sport, to the game, to the coaches, to the players. And it's a nice, transition from a long coaching career to go into something like this. And so I've enjoyed it, and I get to see a lot of different programs. And as I say, it's like you call a game on Saturday night, and when the game's over, I'm not really concerned who won or lost. Yeah. I'm going to go home and relax, and it's a nice break from that grind of, dealing with, the highs of winning, and the lows of losing, and that's a stressful, wears you down process.
Yeah, and the game you just did, Duke and UConn, you have UConn who is trying to figure out their football future as they decided to leave the American for the Big East. And their thought was they were going to leave their football program there. Mike Oresco, the commissioner at the time of the American Athletic Conference, when him and I spoke about it, he was like, if you're going to leave, take it all. And so they have been independent. They continue to be independent. There's less and less independent institutions. UMass will be finding themselves a home. So it's really Notre Dame and UConn. So you had the independent UConn that used to be the Big East, and you have the new look Duke Blue Devils with Manny Diaz, who's back in the ACC after being with the Miami Hurricanes as their defensive coordinator, and then for some time as their head coach. What was Duke UConn like for you? Because it's this weird, like, Atlantic Coast, old Big East, but then a lot of the old Big East is in the ACC, but UConn's independent. I mean, it's got to be weird thinking about it from your point of view of what Atlantic Coast football and what Northeast football used to be, but Duke UConn, takeaways from that for you and the experience of it.
Well, I'm a Connecticut guy. So, I watched that whole, growing up, I always one day said to myself, I hope UConn one day becomes major college football. I want to be a football coach, blah, 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 blah. And then I had the good fortune of going to the first game at Rensselaer when I was at Indiana and played UConn, and as they really went into, Division I football. So for me, as a Connecticut guy, to go down there, I was excited about having the opportunity to learn more about the current Connecticut football program and the state of affairs there, and then watch them play against Duke and in ACC play. And I guess what went through my mind was what you mentioned was, you needed a conference affiliation. And what a shame that, Connecticut, couldn't maybe be a part of the ACC. I know there was some talk about them in the Big 12 recently, but they need a conference affiliation. I was shocked when I saw that, I shouldn't say shocked, but disappointed when they left the AAC and they basically made a statement like, hey, basketball's our deal. And if football's a little bit of collateral damage, then that's just the way it is. And, I hated seeing that, to be honest with you. And, so watching them without a home right now in a conference is frustrating because, Randy Edsall did a great job of making Connecticut football, relevant in the reformed Big East. And, it's hard, I think, to make it right now as independent and just in recruiting and everything else. So I'm hoping that at some point, as this college football, we're not done with the unwinding of it, with the conferences and everything else, that they can find a home. They played a really good game against Duke. They lost it late in the game. It was a very, very competitive game. And, I certainly can see the growth in the program, but I think moving forward, big picture, they've got to get in a conference.
Yeah, I mean, and guys connected back to Syracuse, yourself and Randy Edsall. Randy and I have spoken a lot over the years and formed a friendship as well. And as I have respect for you, I have respect for him. He took UConn into the FBS world. He leaves. He sees the just kind of fall of UConn, and then he goes back to try and build it up for a second time. And so you're asking a man to do what some people thought was impossible, and then he has to do the impossible again. And in the midst of trying to do the impossible again, he's left out to dry with no conference. I'd love to get your thoughts on Randy, because I think that from the outside looking in, some people blamed Randy, where I feel like Randy was set up to fail. And I don't know Randy Edsall to be a bad coach. I don't know him to be a bad person when it comes to morals and values and the things beyond football. So I just, for me, didn't like the situation that was kind of thrust upon him. And him and I met when he was in the American. And then when they went independent, I honestly feel like it was just kind of, yeah, Randy, we don't care what happens to you over here. And I don't blame him for walking away, because I don't think it was a fair situation. And I'd love to get your thoughts on Randy, because I know that he's someone you know.
I do. I think he's a great football coach, terrific guy. had a lot of Northeast experience, and just did an unbelievable job at Connecticut. He really did. And, and then, of course, did good things at Maryland. But, my thoughts are this. When you go into these jobs, you have to have alignment. Urban Meyer used to talk about this a lot, and there has to be alignment with what the goals and what the path for the future is with the university and its football program. If you're, looking at a head football job, and clearly, at Connecticut, they're not all aligned the right way. I think, I'm going back, but I think when Lou Perkins was the AD at University of Connecticut, they were very aligned in the path they wanted to go down and how they wanted to pursue, Division I football, with Bob Burton as a prominent donor involved, and they really had a direction. They went after it. I was always amazed. I said, "Wow, look at this! This is really something." And then they had success, and then it just kind of appeared to me that a lot of different agendas obviously got involved in different sports and different thought process. And now you see that they're, left without a home. Yeah. Now, Jim Mora comes in, he's got a lot of experience and has done a lot of great things, both at the pro level and the collegiate level. And he's in here trying to get the program back to winning again. But, where's the alignment there? I'm not there. I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying, where is it? Yeah. What are their thoughts? What do they want to do? But I think there it's always going to begin and end with basketball. And I'm not, again, those are philosophical decisions that institutions have to make. So I think, football is suffering from that, and hopefully with their schedule, I think they have a manageable schedule, and I think they can win. I think they can get bowl eligible. So I think if they can put themselves in a good position with winning and running a good program, which I think Jim is trying to do there, and hopefully they become attractive to one of these conferences, because they are an elite academic public university. They have phenomenal basketball. They have great resources. And they would be a great addition in any kind of conference restructure.
Talking about restructuring, talking about conferences here with Steve Addazio. Steve, we have seen the maybe unimaginable. We are seeing conference opponents that are 23 to 2,400 miles apart. If they were to drive to each other, some of these trips are 32 to 41 hours. Across country. Cal and Stanford of the Pacific Coast are in a conference called the Atlantic Coast. We have a western region of the Big Ten now with USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. The Big 12 is now the Big 16, and they have Utah, and they have Arizona, and they have Arizona State, and Colorado has returned. The Big 10, as I had mentioned, is the Big 18. I said that they could easily change the logo of the Big Ten by just adding one letter and having a thing that looks like a roof and calling it the Big Tent and just having it be the entire country. So the SEC has Oklahoma and Texas, the identifiers of the Big 12, and the conversation continues about Clemson and Florida State and where they're going to end up. So my question to you, Mr. Addazio, as we talk about where's the home going to be for UConn, could it be the ACC, could it be the Big 12? How have you, from your seat, looked at realignment, both as a coach and now as an analyst, as the country seemingly is being gobbled up by arguably two conferences, maybe looking to make a move? The Big 12's trying to make their case of what they can do, and the Pac-12 is trying to find its way back with just a few months into not existing, kind of, but Oregon State and Washington State are still considered a part of it, even though it's not really there. I'd love to get your take on the fact that we're living in a world where you and I respect region football, right? And we did growing up. There ain't no regions anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love what's going on. I love the old Big East. I love Eastern football, and you had traditional rivalries, and you had geographic tie-ins for fan bases, and I thought that was fantastic. And then these conferences started enlarging, and we've gotten to the point now where they're cross-country conferences, as you stated. Now, what's interesting to me is, where are we headed? I don't know where we're headed. I mean, I feel like with all this NIL and transfer portal, and I think teams they're going to form a super conference at some point in time, and it's going to become the haves and the have-nots, and then this whole thing's going to restructure again, and maybe at that point it'll go back to more of a regional alliance. But right now, I'm not sure where we're headed. Are we headed to this super conference with a commissioner of college football where, a select amount of schools that can have enough millions of dollars that they can keep up with the pace of paying players and all this other kind of stuff? And then there are a number of other schools going to drop out of that and say, we can't do that. We're going to formulate regional leagues, academic leagues. I don't know. I just feel like where we are does not feel super sustainable right now. We're going through a process for sure. Maybe, more guidelines get put into place. Maybe this works out, and I don't know, but we're blowing these conferences up, going down these paths, and ultimately, where are we going to be? And when I say ultimately, I'm not talking about 20 years. I'm talking about 3, 5 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
Where are we going to be? I have to think to myself, like I said, there'll be an upper tier, and then below that will be maybe back to a regional based approach because of cost containment and everything else, because this is so expensive right now and so hard on student athletes, and I don't know where it's going to stop in the near term. I saw the other day that the Pac-12 has now offered invitations into some Mountain West teams to come in with Washington State to come into the Pac-12 there is no Pac-12. I just couldn't figure any of that out. Like, look, it's going to take a few Mountain West teams. Like, I don't know. It seems odd. And then, like you talked about the ACC and, all the grumblings, although I think Florida State has more things on their plate right now than that. But, all the grumblings of Clemson and Florida State wanting to be out of that conference. And I don't know. It seems crazy. It seems crazy when I remember back when, it was, West Virginia and Syracuse and Boston College and Syracuse. And it was, it was so much fun. And everybody was kind of on the equal playing field. Like, back then it wasn't like anybody had a major leg on anybody else in terms of facilities. We're all just everybody's kind of playing ball. But, nothing stays the same. I guess that's a good thing in some respects.
Well, and the thing is, there's so much emphasis on facilities, but when you mention the old Big East and you mention Northeast football, I feel like the mentality of those coaches in those schools where, well, we got a field, we got players, that's good enough. We don't have to have flashy jerseys. We don't have to have these crazy state-of-the-art facilities. We just need to have dirt and grass and players. And it seemed like that was Northeast football, right? That was BC, that's Pitt, Penn State, Syracuse,
right.
Maryland, UConn. That's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be what you lived on, which was run the ball, just completely debilitate the defense that you're going up against, just systematically piss them off by pushing them back on their heels, and then defensively just play a 13-10 game, a 7-3 game. I mean, I remember people talk about BC beating Florida State this year. I remember waiting for one of my nephews to be born, and I was in this room by myself, and I'm watching BC at Florida State, and you were coaching at the time. And you were hanging with them in Tallahassee. And the game ended up not going at the end in the favor of the Eagles, but you had hung with them. And when they beat them this year, I went back to that game and going, don't forget, folks, that there was some aggravating things that Boston College was doing to teams like Florida State when you were the coach there. And I loved that you kept that. you kept that like, we are going to slowly back you into your own end zone. And then we are going to frustrate you that you're going to have 18 plays and you're going to go like -7 yards. I love the fact that that was the world of Northeast football. And it's something that you to this day appreciate and respect. So, Steve, I mean, am I crazy here? If you got a field and you got players, why do you need all this other flashy stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, that was the essence of football, right? I mean, you coached football because you loved the game. You wanted to be around. You wanted to be a teacher. You wanted to be around players. You wanted to coach them. You wanted to make a difference in their lives. And then you branded yourself in Eastern football as being physical and tough. And that was kind of a mantra and a mindset. And I don't think that's really. Yeah. I still think that's probably, especially in Eastern football. I do think that, you know, that's still a place to be. I think Bill O'Brien's doing that at BC right now. And you know, I just think that that's still a valuable place to be in this part of the country. But, you know, I also remember back, Dan, just thinking, just struck me. What would it have been like had Penn State had come into the Big East? You know, I remember back in those days when Villanova, you know, sort of blocked that. And could you imagine, that was when Coach Paterno was there, could you imagine had Penn State, you know, ended up in the Big East? And just where would it be today if that alone had happened? You know, it's just an interesting deal. But you know, I do miss those rivalries. I do miss. I mean, I can remember Coach Pasqualoni at the time as a young coach at Syracuse. You know, you're talking about each one of those rivalries individually, and they were up on your walls, and it was so meaningful. You know, and I loved it. It's what makes college football different. It's, you know, you got the pageantry, you got the rivalries, you know, you got the fans that are traveling to the games because they can do it so much more easily, and those were certainly good times. And you still have some of that in place, of course, and you still want to embrace that. But and then, of course, with the world of the transfer portal and everything, you're getting players. I think Jim Mora told me at UConn they had 27 new players this year. Transfer portal, 27. I'm like, wow. So you got guys that are coming into your program. They haven't been raised in that program. They don't even themselves really understand the great traditions of each university and what they stand for. It becomes very transient. And, you know, that's difficult, you know. So I think that's happening now within each institution. Never mind the conferences are becoming that way. The institutions, you got guys coming in, don't really know much about each institution. They're kind of coming in to lend their services, get paid, and play for a season, and then maybe move on. And I don't, you know, that's another piece that, you know, I don't know. I don't love that. I think they've got to fix that a little bit. I just don't like the fact that you're losing, you know, that tremendous pride in your institution and in the years that you put with your teammates together, trying to work towards a common goal of winning a championship together. And as opposed to now, it's every year it's like a half a new roster or more. So, I mean, those are some things going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Jim Mora talking about 27 new players. That's half an NFL roster. That's half of a professional team's roster. That's insane. And we're not talking about, oh, you know, we got a backup kicker and this and that. It's like, no, you got a new quarterback, got a new defensive end, got a new linebacker. I mean, it's insane to see what's going on. I've seen it with Cal under Justin Wilcox. I've seen it with Syracuse, my hometown, and all the guys that have been brought in. I want to get to a few points here, and one of them involves you putting me on the hot seat, Steve, because we've been friends for a while, so I'm going to let you put me on the hot seat. But before we get to that, we've talked about this realignment. We've talked about where things could go. I think I might have said this to you, but this was my prediction like 3 years ago. The SEC was going to form its own league. The Big Ten made a move to get West Coast teams to join the SEC because if they have the Northeast, the Southeast, the South Middle, the Midwest, and the West Coast, you can argue that those two conferences together take up the entire country coast to coast. If they somehow got the Big Ten to bring in Notre Dame, and Clemson and Florida State went to the SEC, I think it's a done deal. Those were the last chips that I said had to fall for them to consider this to be, if you look at all of the products that they have, all the institutions that they have, that would be considered the national champion outright. That would be College Football Playoff 1. College Football Playoff 2, Tier 2 if you will, would be the rest of the conferences that are left. The ACC, the American, the Big 12, and so on and so forth within FBS. And then Tier 3 would be Division I AA, which I guess you could call Division I AAA, and it would be the FCS teams that will continue to do what they're doing. That's how I see this. It's how I've continued to see it. That the SEC does not need anybody else. The Big Ten is trying to be attractive to that move, and the rest of the schools are going to have to try and figure it out from there. Your thoughts going off of what you had said and what I had said, that we are living in a world where essentially the SEC and maybe the Big Ten are calling the shots to the college football playoff of, you know where we stand, you know where we are. And by the way, that prediction that I made a while back was more than proven in the notion that they were going to take the 12-team college football playoff, make it 14, and give only 2 conferences automatic moves into the next round, which were going to be the Big Ten and the SEC, that they're champion every single year, regardless of anything the rest of the country did, including go undefeated, that they were going to be given preferential treatment to get into the next round. I feel like that was kind of showing the hand of the future of the college football playoff. But I'd love to get your take, because I think it's SEC or SEC Big Ten, everybody else, and then the FCS, which plays to what John Swofford said to me years ago at the ACC when I said, you chose an interesting word in autonomy. When you said autonomy, it's a legislative term. Power is a media term, but autonomy means self-governing. So when you in the ACC, as well as the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC at the time made this decision to be autonomous, what you essentially told the NCAA is, we don't really need you, but we'll function here as a company within a company until we decide we don't need this company. And I asked him about that years ago. And he said, it's not out of the realm of possibility that we could break away. We have essentially thought about it, had the discussion of it, so to speak. It's not something that isn't there. We're just not looking at it right now, is what he told me all those years ago. Now I think we're closer than ever. You alluded to it. The college football playoff giving preferential treatment to the SEC and the Big Ten, if they were to expand, alludes to it as well. So what say you, Steve Addazio?
Well, I don't think there's any question that the Big Ten and the SEC run college football. That's in the SEC, it starts with the SEC, but the Big Ten is powerful as well. And, those are where the decisions are being made right now. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. And, as you talked about, I talked about where it heads from here. It's going to come out of those 2 conferences. And I just see this thing. I know what's going on right now is not sustainable. Now, exactly how does it twist and turn? I don't have those answers, but it feels a lot like there's going to be the haves and the have-nots. And now, how many teams are going to be in those haves? I don't know. But when these TV contracts come up for renegotiation, you're going to see some changes. In the meantime, I think you're going to see many skirmishes along the way where there'll be some more expansion or shuffling. And, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go either, but I would assume that that's going to continue to happen. But it's crazy. It's kind of wild. And like I said, with what you're talking about here with this conference stuff, with NIL, with transfer portal, there is just so much going on right now in college football. And it certainly speaks to the fact of how much appetite there is for sports and for college football.
Yeah.
But there's just so much going on right now. It feels like we got to get some guardrails, some things to keep this thing together more efficiently. And I think we're going to start to see that. There's little things coming out about talking about minimizing transfer portal windows. There's just what happens is a lot of things get passed, and a lot of things is the process of what happens in college football is really actually amazing. Sitting in those head coach meetings, I mean, how things get done to me. We'd talk about something as a group of head coaches, and we'd have an opinion or a vote on it, and then it would come back totally different. You're like, well, who made that decision? Yeah. You don't really know who made them, but I just think that there's going to be a lot of twists and turns here. I really do. And it's we'll see. We'll see. You and I are in the media, and we're going to be around to talk about it and watch it. But for me personally, my son's in the business. He's now with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's a really great young coach with a great future. And as a dad and as someone that loves college football, I want to make sure whatever we do, whatever decisions are being made, I just hope we keep the integrity and this great game what it is, and don't let it disintegrate. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I still believe that it's a privilege to play the game, to coach the game. It's not a right, and I think that we have to keep it what it is, great, which is a great opportunity to make a difference through football, through sport, through competition in young people's lives. And I don't want that to be lost in the world of monies and contracts and NILs, and all of a sudden I guess we just have a new kind of professional football. I guess it's no longer what I got into this thing for.
Yeah, I mean, you bring it up, but it's worse because Trevor Lawrence isn't on 4 teams in 4 years in the NFL, but he could be on 4 teams in 4 years in college football. And that, to me, that's where DJ Uiagalelei is in Clemson, and then he's at Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State. And I mean, and you don't have to wait 1 year. You don't have to wait after your first transfer, your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, whatever it may be. I mean, you can play in 4 schools in 4 years, and I think that that's affecting, obviously, I know that it's affecting a lot of things. And, I mean, you brought it up when you meet as coaches and you make a decision, and then the decision comes back different, and you're trying to figure out where it came from. I want to go back to the ACC and what that experience was like for you, because now they have Commissioner Jim Phillips, but when you were there, you had John Swofford, and he was a part of expanding the ACC. And really, I mean, the ACC, when you look at basketball, it is clearly there that half of the ACC is the ACC and the other half is the Big East. So what did you take away from coaches' meetings in the ACC? That's where you and I met. Well, actually, we met at the Big East with Temple, and then going into the American, and then when you went over to BC, we continued our relationship there. But how did you experience the ACC and John Swofford and that world of the Atlantic Coast Conference? Because you were there at a time where things were changing.
Well, my tenure in the ACC was at its pinnacle. It was at the very, very best it had been since its inception. We had 3 national championship teams in 5 years, and it was, things were really, really good in ACC football. John Swofford was a really tremendous person and a gentleman, and was doing everything he could to elevate the profile of the ACC, to get a new television contract, to be able to create more revenue. When I was there as a head coach in that conference, a lot of the conversation was about just, feeling like, we wanted to be on the same footing as the SEC and as the Big Ten. And we always felt like we were sort of not there, and that those conferences had an upper hand in a lot of things like decision-making on rules and policies, et cetera. And there was some frustration level, then, which I'm sure there is now, over the differences, over the revenue differences, over just a lot of things. And there was conversation back then about, football's got to succeed. Football is the bell cow financially for these institutions. Yet sometimes we felt like, there's more emphasis on basketball in the ACC. So, but having said all that, when I was there, the ACC was a very, very strong. That was the strongest that conference had been. So, and that's Jimbo had won the national title at Florida State. Dabo won multiple titles at Clemson. So they were kind of the bell cows of the conference. And that whole concept started back then with both of those schools kind of like wanting a little more, because they thought they were the drivers behind the conference, and they were. But so there was a lot of that stuff going on then. I assume it's still going on now. Obviously, Jim Phillips is the new commissioner. I worked with Jim at Notre Dame. He was an assistant AD at Notre Dame when I was there. I think he's a tremendous guy. Really like him a lot. He's a go-getter. He's sharp.
Yeah.
So I think he's doing everything he can to keep that conference together and keep it building strong and trying to keep a great profile. I mean, one of the big things in the ACC is their academic profile. They want that to be strong. That's one of the reasons I think UConn does lend something there. But it's an interesting deal. But clearly, Dan, there's the Big Ten, there's the SEC, and then there's everybody else. And that's kind of where it is. Went from, Power 5 to the Power 4 to, I don't know, it's probably the Power 2, so.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to let you put me on the hot seat, but I'm going to ask you one final question before that, and it's two totally separate things. One, Texas is the number one team in the country right now. Arch Manning did something that we didn't see Archie Manning, Peyton Manning, and Eli Manning do, which is run that dang rock 67 yards for a touchdown. I saw that live. Incredible play by Arch Manning, and obviously hoping the best for Ewers and hoping that he gets back onto the field. A good problem for Texas to have. They haven't played any games in the SEC, with this being their first season in the SEC, but they did go on the road to Michigan, my opinion ranked too high, and they defeated them 31-12 by almost 3 touchdowns. So my question to you is Texas for real? And then my totally separate question, with you having been at Notre Dame, is can anybody get Notre Dame to join a conference? I got a really easy way to make it happen, but is Texas for real? And will Notre Dame, in this super league that could be forming, do they eventually join that super league?
Well, question one, I think Texas is definitely for real. I think Steve Sarkisian has done a great job in building that program. I think they're explosive. I think they're athletic. I think they're, I think they're good up front. I think they're built right, and they have a dynamic quarterback. They appear to have a good young quarterback that's super talented. So I think they're real. You're asking the age-long question about Notre Dame. I always felt like, when we were in the ACC, force their hand, but nobody ever wanted to. They would take whatever piece they could get and be happy with it, because Notre Dame brings such a strong affiliation. I've spent great years in Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame. I love their mission. I love everything, about what they do too. So, from their perspective, they have an opportunity to stay independent, still generate great funds. They want to be able to have their brand play from coast to coast, which is actually happening in all the conferences now. So what will happen with them? Money will tell the tale. Whatever the new structures will be, what is that revenue going to be as compared to what they can pull on their own? And I think they'll make a decision. It'll be based off of revenue. It'll be based off of exposure. It'll be based off ability to win a national championship. So right now, to me, they look like they're in a great position because everything's changing around them and they're kind of staying with what they're doing. So probably a good, envious position to be.
Yeah, I always said there's an easy way to do it. Tell them that they can't qualify for the college football playoff if they're not in a conference. And the college football playoff kind of made a move by saying they can never be higher than 5. So, because they're not in a conference and they're not a conference champion. So that kind of created some type of atmosphere for them, I guess, but they can make it really easy and just tell them they can't qualify for a national championship. So, Steve, you've answered all my questions. Time.
Well, I
always...
want one add
Yeah,
to that, Dan.
yes.
I would just say it's good for college football when Notre Dame's involved and when they're playing well and when they're good. That is good for college football. So you know what I mean. So I mean that's a national brand and probably the most recognizable program still to this day in college football. So you want them to have the ability to be front and center. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're totally fine. I mean, Steve, honestly, for me, in my opinion, you and I should just do a show together because I love talking to you. I respect you. And we've known each other for over a decade, I think now. And every time I ask you a question, I'm excited like a little kid going, all right, I got another thought. Okay, I want to go. I mean, we could have stayed on one of these topics the whole time. You've been great about answering them, and time has flown by. So I'm going to let you put me on the hot seat. I'm not going to put you on the hot seat at all. So you got 3 questions for me. Enjoy them, Coach, because coaches don't get to ask questions ever. So, Steve, you can ask me anything in the world. It could be football. It could be sports. It could be food. I don't care where you go with it. We are live to the world, and I've now put myself on the hot seat of a coach that I would imagine was terrifying to be on the other side of you. Like, I love, Steve, that you and I are in the same corner, but the type of drill sergeant that you are and the fire that you have, I don't think that all I'm saying is, what I'm trying to say is from one Italian to another is, I'm happy that this dog is in my yard. So,
well, I appreciate that. I don't know if everybody is, but I'm certainly in your corner. But let's say this now. I'd like to know from you, Dan, what is the best pizza in Central New York?
The best pizza in Central New York. Goodness me. There's so many places. If I had to pick one feet to the fire, because I work with a lot of pizza places and I get something different at every place, but I would have to say the grandma's pie at Avicoli's, the Sicilian style square with it's the texture of it. It's the sauce, a little bit of sauce, the cheese, and then it's like the basil and the fresh mozzarella on the top of it. And when you bite into it, it's something about how like all of the textures kind of dance with each other. Nobody does anything quite like that. So, and I've been to pizza in different parts of the country. So I would say the grandma's pie at Avicoli's, because the texture and the taste has not been duplicated by anybody else.
Well, I got to try it then. Next time I'm up there, I'm going to try grandma's pie because I'm a pizza guy now. I pay close attention to where the spots are that there's nothing worse than bad pizza. Even though some people say there's no bad pizza, I don't know about that. Yeah. But I like good pizza. Good pizza is a special thing, and it makes your day. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try that pizza. All right, that was question 1.
Yeah.
Question 2. Best program out there right now in Eastern football.
Oof, in Eastern football, I would say, man, it's an interesting question because Pittsburgh's 3-0, and I have a lot of respect for Pat Narduzzi. I've known him a long time. I've known him the whole time he's been at Pitt. So he also, as a card-carrying Italian, has some pretty fly suits and shoes that he puts together. I need to know his tailor. I really do. He had a blue pinstripe suit at ACC kickoff with these brown shoes one time, and I was like, man, you look like somebody that was eating food when something happened to somebody that you didn't know about. So, I mean, it was a perfect Italian movie garb for him is what I mean. So, I mean, they're 3-0. I think Fran Brown is really changing Syracuse, and for the better, from what I'm seeing right now. And then Penn State is Penn State. So, I mean, if I had to pick today, I would say I think Penn State is ranked a little bit too high. They barely got out of the Bowling Green game. I would argue between Syracuse and Pitt, honestly, because it's not Maryland, it's not UConn. I like BC. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's Syracuse, Pitt, and BC would be fighting for it. And if I had to feet to the fire pick right now, I feel like the way that Pitt beat West Virginia and Eli Holstein being a recruit that went to Alabama that transferred to Pitt, I'm going to give a slight edge to Pitt. They've also played one more game than Syracuse, so I'd probably give a slight edge to Pitt, but I think Syracuse and BC are poised to have themselves good seasons. I like what Kyle McCord's doing, 350-plus yards in his first 2 games in Orange, 4 touchdowns passing in both of those games as well. And then, I think Thomas Castellanos and what the team is doing in Boston College. I'm a fan of Billy O'Brien, so I think it's hard, but I'm going to go to the ACC schools, and I'm going to give an edge to Pitt because of like what you talked about, the backyard brawl. They didn't just win a game over West Virginia. They won that game in a way that like makes people that have been watching football for 40 years that are Pitt fans excited. And by the way, Pat Narduzzi, we know when a coach calls out the officiating at the end of the game, he's going to get fined. We know that. But with that being said, what an epic way to do it when he said, and I quote, "We won the backyard brawl against West Virginia and we beat the refs too in the same game." I mean, listen, I understand that you're going to get fined when you do it, but I also feel like that's Big East. That's old football. That's old Northeast football, Big East football. And Doozer was amped up. So I'm not gonna hate him for it, but I knew watching in real time, I'm like, this guy 100% is going to get fined for saying what he's saying. But yeah, I guess I'll pick Pitt.
All right, question 3. Today, if you're picking today, who's the best team in college football?
If I'm picking today, well, Georgia has proven that they can win a baseball game. For goodness sakes, they won 13-12 over Kentucky on the road. I don't know what happened to Kentucky against South Carolina because they played Georgia really well. But feet to the fire right now today with their quarterbacks, plural, and the way that they've played on the road, the way that they've played at home, I have to say Texas. I think Sarkisian is, listen, Texas had Tom Herman, who I've known for a long time and built a nice relationship with on and off the air, and that didn't work out. Charlie Strong didn't work out. For goodness sakes, they've had a bunch of coaches come through there, and it just wasn't the right fit. But Sarkisian has definitely put Texas in a really ripe place. We'll see how they play in the SEC. They haven't done that yet. But if I had to pick a team that I think can win a national championship right now that I would put my money on, it would be Texas.
All right, those are my 3 questions.
Those are your 3. Now, Steve, I want to go back to what you said. I said that you're the dog in my yard. We support each other. And you said, I don't know if everybody's there for you. Do you know people that are opposite me right now, Mr. Addazio?
No. I think I said, I don't know if everybody's there for me.
I was going to say. I was going to say, man, but listen, and going off of that, I want to say something, and I want to make something clear. It's not a question, it's a statement, but I want to do it while you're on camera. Steve Addazio, in my opinion, and I'm not saying this because you're here, when it comes to covering sports for over 2 decades, November will be my 21st year. It is my favorite number. I've lived more of my life broadcasting than I haven't. I'm 38 years old. I've been broadcasting for 20 plus, and I started at 18. I can say with over 5,000 people that I've talked to on Wake Up Call, with all the coaches that I've spoken with, there is a caliber of human being that you are at. Now, you have some wins, you have some losses, you're a coach, you're going to get scrutinized, but as someone who has always given me good advice off the air and good advice on the air, I want people to fully understand you're a better coach than you get credit for. BC would have been nowhere without you. Colorado State, you didn't have enough time. And I think the work that you've done, it goes unnoticed. It goes underappreciated. You made it to more bowls in your given time than my hometown of Syracuse did. And to be treated the way that you were treated and disrespected of sorts when you were winning more and you were being more consistent, I don't think that drum is hit enough. and I'm going to hit that drum. I don't care what people think about me. I don't care how people see it. And to the man more than the coach, for the phone calls that you've made to me, for the advice that you've given me, for the things that you have said, and for the fact that you have always been there, no matter what, and I know that you would be there. I can honestly tell you that I hope on my biggest days of my life that you're in attendance, and it is an honor to know you. It is an honor to hear your words, and you're on a very short list of people that if I've garnered any respect from those people, I get down on my knees and thank God that apparently I did something right. So, Steve, you are on a very tiny list of people that, as you know, I will go to bat for, I will root for, and I deeply respect. And like I said, I hope on the days where the sun is shining brightest on my face that I get to stand there arm in arm with you, because there are few people that I count as high as I count you.
Well, that's awful nice of you to say, Dan. And you know how much I appreciate our friendship and the respect I have for you. And you're too kind in your comments. And I'm grateful that this career, this business, I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate to meet people like you along the way, and to be a part of football for as long as I've been a part of it. And so I've got nothing but love for this game and love for you and everybody associated with it. And just glad to continue to be able to be a part of it. So thank you for having me on today, and all the best, brother.
Yeah, well, as
I
always,
can't wait to eat that pizza.
Yeah, you got to listen, when you get yourself up here, and we'll get some of this Avicoli's grandma's pie together. But, like I said, Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate you back and consider you part of the family. So thanks for everything you do, and I look forward to seeing all you have to say for this upcoming season, and look forward to everything that's coming up after that. So thanks, Steve.
All right, Dan, all the best. Take care.
Take care. Go enjoy that weather that I've been staring at for an hour.
I'm going to. I'll see you, brother.
All right, see ya. Take care. Coming from Steve Addazio one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. I don't care what people think of me. My support of Steve Addazio is going to be there. It's been there. It is there, and it's going to continue to be there. I mean, that's the reality. He is a hell of a coach. He is a better human being. And, I mean, if you want to know the caliber of him, I just go to one phone call that he made to me. Had nothing to do with football. Had nothing to do with anything other than something that happened in my life. And he was there. He was there, and he was supportive, and he was kind, and he's just a different human being. He's just a different human being. And I appreciate him. So, if some of you are in my yard, great. If some of you aren't, great. Same for Steve. Because my yard, when I have a party in my backyard, it's filled with people that I love, that I respect, and by the grace of God, they love and respect me back. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. I never know how to say goodbye to Steve. I don't. So it's always a see you later. And I appreciate you back, brother. God bless you. And thank you for all the work that you do, far beyond the X's and O's. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really changed the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machine, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machine. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, located for you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop, folks. It gets us close to those that we care about. It gets us close to the teams that we love and the players that we love to watch. That's what it comes down to. GG Cards and Breaks is just fun. It's different. It's unique. And I appreciate everybody that's found their way over there, because collecting cards, to me, it keeps you a kid. It builds a community. There's something about it. I don't know how to describe it. It's just something. It's something in the air when it comes to cards, right? Some of us collect them like the stock market, right? We collect them. We see them go up and down. We sell them. We trade them. We move them. We buy them. And then other ones we got our collection. A lot of us have both. We have a collection of cards that we're never going to sell. Those go put aside. And then we have the ones where we're like, hey, let's put these out there. And you can do that this week, this Thursday, September 19th. Anybody can come and do it. This Thursday, September 19th, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. GG Cards and Breaks has their monthly trade night. This one is at the store. So we'll see you at 639 Delmar Place this Thursday, September 19th. In Syracuse, right off of Teal Ave, 639 Delmar Place. The event starts at 6:30. It ends at 9:30. And, of course, the store is open 10 to 6. So they're literally open all the way through. They're open for almost 12 hours that day. You can buy from the store while you're there, and you can buy, sell, and trade from each other. I'll have a ton of new stuff coming to this trade night. So I look forward to you coming over to my table and seeing what I got. And I look forward to seeing your stuff as well. GG Cards and Breaks. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5 with all different sports, hockey, soccer, basketball, football, baseball, and more on top of having the TCG, the trading card game world, that element with Disney Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering. Find it all at GG Cards and Breaks. If you've never collected a card before, it's a great time to see what it's all about. And if you've been collecting your whole life, well, this is going to be your next home. I tell you, folks, I never thought that I would have a place that made me feel like I felt when I was a kid growing up at Syracuse, because that place went away. And GG Cards and Breaks, my dad brought me there over a year ago on Father's Day last year, 2023. And I tell you what, after being there on Father's Day and meeting Joel and then talking to Josh and then meeting Alex and meeting Anthony and meeting the rest of the team, there's something about GG Cards and Breaks that's different, it's special, it's fun, it's a place where I feel welcome, and it's a place that I love to promote. Head to GG Cards and Breaks and find out what I'm talking about, and make sure you come out for trade night this week. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we're less than a half an hour away from a massive announcement. I'm doing something else. So I'm adding more to Wake Up Call. To find out what that is, be with me on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT at noon Eastern time today. I am making an announcement at noon today, Monday, September 16th. Do not miss the announcement. I'm super excited, and it has everything to do with a place that we've expanded out to even more. So I'm excited to share that with you. Of course, you've watched and listened on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com worldwide. Once the shows go live, they hop into the archive. I added a bunch there this past week, so you could go and see all of that on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Click subscribe, follow, whatever the button is on that specific channel so you never miss one of our shows again when they get added. And a big time thanks to Carvel DeWitt, as well as the Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, GG Cards and Breaks, Pizza Man, Great Lakes Honda City, Mother's Cupboard, Servomation, which is reimagining, redefining, and reinvigorating what it means to have vending, their kitchen that I've toured, their technology that I've seen, the experience that I've had around what vending is. Servomation, listen, this is how I look at it. If I had a break room, I'm getting Servomation. If I was overseeing a school, I'm getting Servomation. If I'm at a college or university, I'm getting Servomation. If I'm going to be a rest stop, I'm getting Servomation. There's nothing that I've ever seen like it, and it totally changed how I look at vending machines. Head to servomation.com for more information today. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. Find the Dolphins every single Wednesday during Dolphin Time weekly at 9 a.m. Eastern Time exclusively here on Wake Up Call, jumping into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni over 3+ years. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Lemoyne playlist of over 150 videos that are currently there for you and ever growing. You can also find the Dolphins on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com and fins up. The Brian S. Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Bobcats every month on what we call the Bobcat Buzz. We just aired a bunch of specials with the Bobcats men's soccer team that have started the season off 2-0 with a win on the road and a win at home. And we look forward to you checking out all my content with the Bobcats, men's and women's soccer, as well as men's and women's basketball, baseball, and esports. Find the Bobcats by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and the BSC Syracuse playlist of over 70 videos is there for you today. You can also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find that giant B all over our Wake Up Call work. And of course, you'll see them Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the Bearcat Break Room, as well as Moments with Marshall airing throughout the year. We call it Bearcat Time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Moments with Marshall featuring Binghamton University Athletics Director Gene Marshall and a behind-the-scenes look at the athletic department, and the Bearcat Break Room with student athletes, coaches, and administration. We have an awesome one coming up for you this Tuesday with men's soccer, and very excited to have some new guests joining me for the first time ever from the men's soccer program at Binghamton University. Find all of our Bearcat content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Binghamton playlist. You can also find your Bearcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to bubearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I cannot thank my guests enough today. Had a great time that went by all too quick with Mr. Brendan Murphy, and the same with Steve Addazio, longtime college football coach and current college football analyst. Like I said, big time news coming up at noon today on our social media channels, so check those out. And of course, a big time opportunity tonight happening tonight, Monday, September 16th at 6 p.m. We'll be on site on location. You heard Steve and I talk about the grandma's pie at Avicoli's. Well, I'm going to be eating some of it at Avicoli's tonight. Can't wait to see you out there at Avicoli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. We'll see you there tonight for Liverpool Warriors boys volleyball. Come have dinner, 6 p.m. tonight, September 16th at Avicoli's, down the street from Liverpool High School. Come right over there, 6 o'clock tonight, have some dinner, watch the show, support Liverpool Warriors in general, and support the boys volleyball team. Coming off a victory and looking to try and get another one in a match that's coming up right after they're with us tonight. They'll have a match tomorrow, so we look forward to seeing you tonight. And the head coach, as well as student athletes, will be hanging out with me. Can't wait to celebrate that. So very much looking forward to it, and I cannot thank them enough for all the work that they do at Liverpool High School and the many years that we've spent together. Can't wait to have Mike McIntosh and the gang out at Avicoli's tonight for our Liverpool Warriors boys volleyball special. So we will see you there on site on location. And in the meantime, make sure you join me at noon Eastern time for big time news here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. For Brendan, for Steve, for myself, God bless you all.